everybody. Welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. This is episode 267. I want to welcome you to this place. It is Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. If you are in North America, I hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day this past Sunday. If you are a mom or if you have a mom, and if it's a painful day for any reason, I hope that you had found solace in the people around you, maybe something that you love to do, something you could immerse yourself in. And I hope that for everybody that you had a wonderful weekend. We are in the midst of a bit of a heat wave here in southwestern British Columbia, here in the Pacific Northwest. We are we're experiencing daytime highs. So over the weekend, it got up to 35, 36 degrees Celsius in places. If there's anybody in the chat that can do a quick conversion for Fahrenheit, that would be wonderful. I think that's the high 80s, low 90s, but I might be wrong. Anyhow, it was very hot here, and it was overnight that it happened, which is always really hard to adjust to, right? So I hope you guys have a wonderful couple of weeks regardless. We have a very full show, and I thought today we would start a new segment, so I'm excited to introduce that to you guys after we run the credits. It's sort of a sweater reflections kind of a segment, and it was something that came out of the recent survey that I asked you guys to do for the Camelids giveaway. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Let me know. We'll see what you guys think. So there was a really fun thing that was posted in the random channel on Slack by my dear friend Greta, and she has a great sense of humor. She's a wonderful human being, and she posted this in the random channel. And I normally don't share stuff like this. Like if it gets posted, I'm like, oh yeah. But this was really fun. So you guys that are in the chat right now get to tell us. Some people have already written it on the Slack channel. So some of you already answered, and you can just type it into the chat if you're watching live. But this was what she shared. What is your knitting name? So take your first name comes from your birthday month. So whatever your birthday month is. So my birthday month is June. So I am Wool. And then your last name for your knitting name comes from your first initial. So my first initial is R for Rachel. So I am Wool Ruffle. That's my knitting name. If you went with, I read it wrong on the Slack channel because I thought it was your last name, the first initial of your last name. So I put Wool I-cord, which is cool too. And my true name is Rachel Alexandra. So it would be Wool Ruffle Intarsia. Anyways, it's super fun. So you guys can throw in what your names are and play with that. And while we carry on with the show. So what else is going on around here? We have a lot happening in our community because of the Year of Color. So if you don't mind just entertaining me for just a moment, we'll go through it right quick. I have not been able to publish the Ketchup and Pickles post for this month quite yet, and it's only because of sort of how crazy it's been already, and we're only halfway through the month, and I'm glad that May is a long month. I'm glad that we've got that extra couple of days in May, because it always makes me feel in these slightly longer months like I can slow down, catch my breath, and then carry on again, and feeling like I'm caught up and that I've got everything under control. And it's just because I'm highly conscientious and I want everything to go really smoothly. That's really what it is. So this month on Woolen Spinning Radio, the Loving Blanket Project was featured, and Ann Wilson came on as my guest. They spoke about the project, spoke about generational trauma, and about where the blanket came from and what she was hoping would come out of the blanket. So I hope that you have a listen to that. That is available wherever you subscribe to your audio podcast: Google Play, Audible, Spotify, iTunes. It's everywhere. So everybody is invited to listen to that. Please check that out. The Year of Color Part 1, the Spinning Pearls vlog, is out for patrons of the community. We are looking at the warm-cold contrast this month, and that is Part 1. Part 2 will be released later in the month. If you see down below there at the very bottom, It will premiere on the last Tuesday of the month. Everybody is invited to that. You do not need to be a patron of the community to come to that premiere at 10 a.m. Pacific at the end of the month. And I'm actually working on that today. I'm just finishing up some of my stuff that I wanted to show for that. And it's ended up being a contrast that I've actually really enjoyed delving into, which has been really, really fun. Rebecca has been able to record and host and stream both of the wool circles for this month already. It's crazy that she's just because of the way that May falls. It's very quick in the month. So the first wool circle this month, she talked about wool combing, specifically fleece that was naturally dyed, that she worked on from her mom. And then yesterday's stream, she actually talked about tweaking some of her technique and talked about some of the different approaches. And then she talked about color and managing her color in her wool combing, which I thought was really cool. And she showed all of her samples and all of her color wheels that she's been working on, and it was an excellent episode. So I hope that you will consider checking that out. That is the Wool Circle tier on Patreon, and she streams twice per month. It's usually about, give or take, 30, 35, sometimes 40 minutes, depending on what she's talking about. All of the links are down below in the down bar. And then of course we've got some stuff coming up this week on Thursday morning. It's not Wednesday, it's Thursday. I'm actually going to change that because that will confuse people. And I thought that was updated when I looked at it yesterday. So I'm going to just fix that right now so that people are not confused. We've got a maker morning this coming Thursday morning at 6:30 Pacific. We've got queries and explorations on the last Saturday of the month because we are traveling this coming weekend. It is the May long weekend. We've decided to go to Victoria and spend some time with my brother and sister-in-law. And Spinning Staples is meeting next Wednesday on the 24th. Is that next Wednesday already? I feel like this month is just going like that. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I just find the spring is such a sprint. It is so fast. I find the fall and the winter are like a marathon. It's like you start September and you're like, okay, we've got all the way till March. We're in a marathon. We're just going slow and steady. And then I find April, May, and June is like this sprint to the end. I hate it so much. I wish things weren't so packed into the spring. I always feel like the spring, everything gets packed in. Everybody wants to do year-end stuff. There's all sorts of stuff at school. There's all sorts of stuff just going on in general. It's like we didn't do anything from September to November. Like, put some things in there. We did nothing in January. Put some stuff in there. Like, just spread it out. That's just my little rant for the day. Ask me how I really feel. Anyhow, I don't know if anybody else feels like that having school-age children, but honest to goodness, like seriously, slow down. So there's a lot going on in our community, and this year of color this year has been all-consuming for so many of us, and it's been so much fun to watch what people have been doing. So thank you so much to those who have who have been participating and who've been jumping on board as we've been going and have just been so positive about it. Okay, I have to read off some of these names from the quiz because they are hilarious. Okay, so Rebecca, living in Nunavut, Canada, Northern Canada. I love that she's Kiviat Pico. I think that's just so perfect. Living where she can actually get Kiviat off the land is just incredible. And she's Kiviat Pico. Like, how perfect is that? If Rebecca's using her first initial of her first name, then she's Kiviat Ruffle. Dion is Merino Bobble. Diana Twist is Linen Brioche. I love that. Charlotte is Silk Thrum. It's very fancy. What else? Diana says Linen Selvage if she's using her first initial. It's confusing which initial we're supposed to be using. Yeah, so she would be Selvage if she's using Diana as her first initial. Alberto is Cashmere Intarsia. That's a great one. Glenda is Linen Cardigan. Tessa she feels very luxe. Yes, you should. You're Angora Brioche. Dagmar is Wool Selvage. I like that one. Eve is Nylon Mosaic. Oh, that's so much fun. What else? Is anybody else? Oh, Christine is hemp bobble. That's so much fun. Anyhow, thank you for playing along, you guys. It's just so much fun. So I wanted to share with you what has been going on in our life the last couple of weeks. We've had a very full couple of weeks, and I realized actually that I didn't put any music with this year. So I thought that I would just talk while it's playing. So hopefully you guys will be able to hear me. So this is out at the Fraser River. Sorry, it got cut off a bit. It's just the way that the video is playing. This is out at the Fraser River nearby our home. There's a hike that you can do out to the Fraser River, and it's actually quite dirty out there and it's muddy. But this is on the hike and across all of the boardwalks and all the places. And it's they're trying to preserve it as like a habitat. And it's a 2-kilometer walk, like round trip from the car. And it's a big loop that you get to do. And so of course the kids like going out there because it takes about half an hour to 40 minutes. It's not overwhelming. And this is us out at the sort of beach area. I put beach in quotes. So we had the opportunity, not this past weekend, but a week ago. So the last weekend for the kids to actually be player mascots at the Whitecaps game. So there's Nora is actually on the Jumbotron. That's why I showed this. And they got to walk out with the players. The Whitecaps are a Major League Soccer team as part of North American soccer. So for those who don't live in North America, that it's MLS is our Major League Soccer. And the Whitecaps are walking out in white, which is our team, as you can see by all the scarves. And then the black team that's on the other side, that's the Colorado Rapids. Or were we playing Minnesota? The Minnesota Rapids, sorry. Anyways, our kids got matched up with Minnesota players, which was kind of too bad because they were really hoping for Whitecaps players. But you can see, if you know what he looks like, you can actually see both James and Nora in this shot, but it's hard to see them because they're walking out on the other side. And so this was at BC Place, which is a big... it's the biggest stadium. It's actually one of the reasons why why North America was able to get the World Cup in 2026 is because BMO actually seats, I think it's like 60 or 80,000 people or something like that. So BC Place it's the biggest stadium in Canada, and it's indoor and it's covered, and so it's just incredible. So there are the kids standing there at the end. James is the third from the end, and Nora is the 6th from the end, if you can see them there. So they're up there on the Jumbotron. That's what it looked like under the tent and everything. So, and then this is, she's First Nations and getting up to sing the both of the anthems, both American and Canadian. And then this is out at Fort Langley. I went for a walk on Monday morning. I'd had a really crazy shift at work and last weekend, and I went for a lovely walk in the sun. It was before it got really hot here. And the trees just looked beautiful. And you can see the river is really dirty right now. It's just all of the runoff from the winter. And it's funny because my best friend and I were down at the river a couple of weeks before, and you could actually see all of the sand and all the sandbars because the water was so low. And only a few days later, the water's super high. And I don't know, Diana, you drive through Fort Langley every day, if maybe it's even higher now. The Nom in Vancouver is a vegetarian vegan restaurant that's been there since the 1960s. It is the best. It's my favorite restaurant. And this was Nora's final game on Sunday that she played. Thanks, you guys, for watching. I like showing you guys a little bit about what goes on in our life. And I think it's neat for you guys to see kind of what goes on week to week. There's always tons of things happening, and I hope it just is helpful to see kind of the other side of our life and what happens. It's not all knitting and spinning all the time. And I think that's probably quite healthy. All right. Last episode 266, I showed you a whole bunch of footage from a shop in Vancouver. It's on Main Street called Urban Source. And I went and during the intro credits, I went and grabbed what I bought from Urban Source, and I forgot to show you. I think I was just in the moment. So I had to buy this because you guys will get it. So this was a bag. It was on display when I first walked into the store. It's handmade. It's by a maker just over the border in the States. They're called Cavallini and Co. And the bag was hanging there, like it was just hanging off of the side of one of the cabinets. And I saw it and I said to my mom, I have to get that for the year of color. How could I leave it behind? And they had another one that was a little tote bag, like a little notions bag. And of course for our knitting and our spinning and stuff, like we always need little bags like that. I almost bought it. It was navy, the organic cotton was navy blue, and I almost bought it, but I actually saw this. And for anybody who knows me, like I love mushrooms. I eat them multiple times a day. They are probably one of my top 5 favorite foods, fun fact. And I saw this and I couldn't resist. I just had to get it. So, and it's the same on the back. So I ended up not getting the little, it was navy blue, and it had, it was meant to go with the big tote bag, and it wasn't the prismatic colors, it was the 12 hue color wheel, and it went like across like this in circles. So it started with the blue and it ended with the red violet, I think it ended with. Anyways, it went across in circles, and it was a little bit smaller than this. It was kind of more like this size, and it was almost more like a pencil bag kind of. Be perfect for crochet hooks. And it had the circles across here, and it had all the colors. And I just was like, oh, but I left it behind. I left it behind because of the fungi. Yeah. So that's what I bought at Urban Source, and I'd forgotten to show you. I don't buy things very often anymore, but yes, potatoes. Don't get me started on my love of potatoes. The starch solution for the win, for sure. Anyhow, I love, I saw that, the prismatic color bag, and I couldn't resist. So, there you go. All right, I have a giveaway announcement winner. So the Camelids box, and everything just fell, but that's okay. I'll fix it later. The Camelids box that was the giveaway. Tori, I am so sorry. I have not gotten stuff in the mail. It's just because it's been so crazy around here. I will mail this at the same time that I mail Tori's. You guys filled out the survey from last, I had it running for a couple of different episodes, and you guys continued to fill it in, and I wanted to get this sort of wrapped up by the end of May so that we could have our next one when the next set of videos on the School of Sweet Georgia, the next workshop, is released. And so this was the Camelids giveaway. And so I went through on random number generator, and Malin was picked, which is wonderful. So Malin, if you could send me your mailing address, I will reach out to you on Ravelry and ask you for your mailing address. Then I'll get Tori's silk box and your Camelids into the mail. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite jokes. I almost said it, Eve, and then I was like, oh, I don't know if I can go there. Why are the mushrooms always welcome at parties? It's because they're the fun guy. I know, it's so corny. All right, the last announcement that I wanted to make was for book club. We have our final book club meeting for The Secret River on Monday, May 22nd. In Canada, that's a holiday Monday, but for everybody else, I think it's just a regular Monday. And we're finishing up this book, and then I'll announce our next book in when we pick it. So I'll probably be announcing it the first episode in June, and then I'll have the dates for that coming up. And so Becca's got us reading till the end. I've already finished it. I think I said that in the last episode. I did finish The Lost Apothecary. It was excellent. I think I mentioned that. And then what was I reading? Oh, and then I finished The Jane Austen Society. I could not put it down. Natalie Penner. It was an excellent book. It's just like a Jane Austen novel. It was super light, super easy. I think on Goodreads I gave it like 4.5 out of 5 or something. It was just a lovely light read. This has been sitting on my bookshelf forever. I gave it to my mom years ago. She read it right away, and then I've just been sitting on it. If you haven't heard of Barbara Erskine and you like historical fiction, it goes back and forth. Her books always follow the same kind of pattern, if you will. They're historical, and they go back and forth between something in the past, usually like the Iron Age, This one happens to be the Iron Age, but they usually go back to like, you know, at least back to medieval times, if not older. Usually the Iron Age, the Bronze Age. And then they also follow a woman in like present day. So I haven't read this one yet, but I just started it. Her books are excellent. If you are just starting out with her and you've never read one of her books before, Lady of Hay is my absolute most favorite book by her. I could not put it down. Child of the Phoenix comes next. And then, what's the other one called? Byzantine? Child of the Phoenix comes next, and then I can't remember what the next one is after that. But anyways, Child of the Phoenix and Lady of Hay, they were so good. I could not put them down. I've read almost all of her books except for this one. And I have Ghost House, but I haven't read it yet. Highly recommend. Especially if you like stuff that's historical that goes back and forth. And there is time travel in the sense that usually whomever's in the past is trying to reach out to whomever's in the future. And there's always like a plot twist and something that you didn't see coming. One of them actually really scared me, which I know doesn't really, I think it was River of Destiny. I think it was called River of Destiny, that one. It actually scared me. I couldn't read it at night. And I don't like scary stuff, but it was so good I couldn't put it down, but I couldn't read it at night because it scared me. So anyways, highly recommend Barbara Erskine's books. Yeah. Okay, let's get into the show. I'll see you on the other side. All right. What are we talking about first? We are talking about yarn that I finished. So let's go to this here. All right. I bought a Mingo and Asho from Dorothy. And I am just so pleased. It came, she sent a lovely little letter with it. Thank you so much, Dorothy. It was so kind. And I am so happy to have you at my table as well. This thing goes like stink. It's a little bit lighter than some of the other Mingo and Ashos that I've been exposed to. And I haven't started spinning on it yet, but I'm just so pleased with it. So thank you, Dorothy, for letting me have the first crack at that. She's been destashing stuff in the hashtag marketplace channel on on Slack. And I saw the Mingo and Asho come up, and I have to admit I did jump at it. So thank you so much, Dorothy. All right, one of the things that I've been sharing about recently is my fin. This is, I'm gonna butcher this, you guys. Somebody in the chat will help me, or oh, there's very little romance in her books, Eve. Very little romance, like almost none. And usually there's like some abusive something or other going on and they become possessed, and it's, yeah, don't worry about the romance piece. And I love romance, so but I love her books more. So I've been working on this. This was a gift years ago. I'm embarrassed to admit that I think I've had this Kainnu harama in my stash now for, I want to say like 7 or 8 years, and Amber gifted it to me from Norway. I'm almost positive that it's from Norway. And it was just so lovely of her to send it to me. And at the time, I just was really overwhelmed with sort of the idea of processing this, messing it up, wrecking it, quote unquote. And I'm so glad that I finally just jumped in and decided to start processing it. So I have 335 grams of this, and I took the fleece after working on that Cormo last year and getting it processed and asking Liz to help me to get it washed and get it drafted into pin drafted roving. I decided to, I really enjoyed seeing that project go straight through from fleece all the way to a finished object, which is my M's and W's stole back here on my Diana right now. And to go through that process, as I was in that process, I recognized that there was some real magic happening there in the process, and that slow making, that slow cloth was really speaking to me in terms of what I wanted to create long term. And so I've decided, and I know many in our community have committed to this as well, that I always want to have a project that I'm working on in the background that's from fleece. So this is that project right now. And when this is done, then I'll go to the next one. And when that's done, I'll go to the next one, and so on. It'll take years. I don't have that many fleeces. I only have one, two, I think I have about 4, and they're all partial fleeces. So they're manageable, they're doable. I have a Dorset that I'm gonna do next. And I think, I'm not sure what I have after that. Anyhow, Diana has the same ones in her stash too, because we had split them all between us. Anyhow, this is the first little bit. So remember, I had that bobbin that had all the singles, and I had the second bobbin that was finished, and I got them all plied, and because of the heat, they're washed. So in total, these 2 skeins on the outside, let me just change them around here. They are respectively, this one is 52 grams, and this one is 47 grams, and they are both 300 yards, and which I think is pretty good because that's pre-washing. I don't know what they are post-washing. I suspect that I miscounted on a turn or 2, so that's pretty good. Like the grist is, that means it's pretty much bang on. And then this one was the remainder of the bobbin, and it's 108 yards, 108 yards, and it's only 25 grams. So it's just a little wee baby skein, but it'll be perfect for sampling. I have no idea what I'm gonna make yet. The yarn is just so lovely and soft. It's just beautiful. It has lit a fire under my butt to keep on going, keep on processing, and keep on making it. It's way softer than I thought that it would be. As I was spinning it, Nora kept saying to me, it's so soft, it's so soft. And I sort of was like, is it? I don't know, is it? And then, but now that it's skeined, it's absolutely next to the skin soft. And my original plan was to weave a stole or something like that out of it. But I'm actually wondering about doing something like that would go around my neck, like something like the Pressed Flowers cowl. I know I'm crazy. Pressed Flowers and me, we have a love-hate relationship. But I thought, you know, I've got some beautiful yarn in my stash that would actually pair beautifully with this. And yeah, I'm kind of thinking like just this yarn. I didn't comb this. So let me show you what I did with this yarn. That was part of what I wanted to do, was to show you guys what I did with this. So initially what I had done, actually, let's go to these photos first. What I had initially done was I wasn't sure where to start. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. I just wanted to do some sampling and give something a try. And so what I did was I made right here on closest to me is a carded skein, and the one further away is a combed skein. And at the time, I sort of, again, I didn't really know what I didn't know. They seemed really similar to me. Now looking at them in real life, the combed skein is a little bit denser. It was definitely smoother. I still have it. It's just a little wee skein. The carded one was a little bit underspun. It was fluffier. You could see that the twist in there was a little bit fuzzier. It wasn't quite as defined as it is in the worsted skein, and it was definitely lighter, airier, much higher grist compared to the combed skein. But the beautiful thing about going through that process was it got me going. And so after that, what I started to do was I started to pull out just a little bit of the yarn. So far I've done just about 125 grams of the 335 grams. And what I've been doing, and you can see here is the 3 passes on the drum carder, is I've been lock popping it to open it up, get rid of all the short bits, get rid of a lot of the waste, and then putting it through the drum carder 4 times. And the 4 times just creates these lovely, airy, warm, well-blended bats, because there's cream in this fleece. There's also quite dark gray. And so I didn't want to lose, like, I wanted an overall really cohesive yarn. I wanted it to look really well blended. I wanted it to look like a creamy gray, and it's actually surprisingly warm. It was funny, a friend of mine, one of the moms at the school, it's Nora's best friend's mom, she's a photographer. She's just unbelievably talented. She's been on Oprah, she's been featured in the Huffington Post, like she's just amazing. Anyhow, she bought some Teeswater locks, and she was calling them Teesdale, and I was like, no, Alex, it's Teeswater. And she's like, oh, okay. And they're not dyed the right color that she wanted. She wanted a real purple, and she does baby photography and prenatal photography, and her specialty is prenatal photos of the mom, and then the newborn photos. And I was looking at, and she got these locks. She'd ordered them from the States, which was really too bad because they said to her, use Sarah Elizabeth because she has the best locks. And the locks had been dyed, but they aren't like that really like vibrant color that you can get in the long wools. It's almost like a stormy kind of purpley gray, kind of blue. And it was so cold, and I could see it right away. And she's like, I wanted something warmer, and I wanted like a warm purple, and I wanted it to be saturated. And she's using all these words, and I'm like, I know what you're talking about. I have the language. So then when I got home and I was looking at these, I was like, oh, these are actually very warm. These are a very warm blue or warm gray. And the reason is because of all that cream in there. And it just gives them a very warm feel, which is really cool to be able to see. So from there, the way that I did that was I started, this was the maiden voyage for my lock pop, was this project. I decided to use this project to really learn what my lock pop could do. And so as I'm continuing to open up these locks and put them through the lock pop, I'm putting them back into I've got a big Tupperware that I've got all of it in. And then I'll once I sort of amass a certain amount, then I've been putting it through the drum carder, making a few bats. I haven't been overloading the drum carder. I've been really gentle with the drum carder. And just loading on 40, 50 grams max at a time, and making quite small bats. And that means that I can break them down, make smaller nests of fiber, spin those, spin through it, fill up a bobbin, and then go on to the next one. And then fill up a bobbin, get those plied together, and then start the process all over again. A little bit more in tune with the process rather than spin, 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 spin. And then you've got all these bobbins and all this stuff to then ply. I've decided that I'm just going to enjoy the process of a little bit of fiber prep, a little bit of spinning, a little bit of plying, a little bit of fiber prep, a little bit of spinning, a little bit of plying, and kind of move fluidly between all of those three steps of the process, where maybe there's some spinning going on because I've got some bats finished, but I can't spin right this minute, so let's get some more lock popping done. And oh, I've got lots of locks, let's get some carding done. And oh, I've got 2 bobbins spun, let's do some plying. And just being a bit more like in the process. And it's interesting because Josephine Walton was on the Long Thread Media podcast recently, like in the last, I think it was the episode before the last episode, like recently. And she was talking about that, and talking about just being in the process and just enjoying the process, and that was actually more accurate and more consistent with how they would have done things in the olden days, quote unquote, like in the past. They wouldn't have just done these big projects and focused on just one step all at the same time. They would have actually done multiple things at multiple times, and they still got really consistent yarn, and they still got consistent finished projects and stuff. And so it gave me some language to turn around and articulate what this project has given me. And I think really it's reinvigorated the process for me, getting away a little bit from being sort of very product oriented. And I'm not particularly product oriented, but I think what's happened recently is I felt this pressure to finish things, and it's because that was where I was at in that stage with those things. Pressed flowers was within, it was within arm's reach. It was almost done. It wasn't quite done, but it was almost done. So then it becomes about just getting it finished and getting it done. And this idea of I've got to do this, I should be doing it, I should be working on it. And, shoulding on ourselves isn't particularly helpful. So seeing this as more of an opportunity to just see through the process. It's very long term, it's very slow. just enjoying all these different steps. I love what Dion says too. The variety is really good for our bodies, and of course we're all always thinking about our bodies and preserving what we're doing and what we're working on, and making sure that we're not overdoing one thing. I think it was Dion that was saying the other day about she was taking a break from combing. Was it combing, Dion? And you were doing something else. You took a break from your hand cards and you were doing something else. Whatever it was, like, it's good to have a variety of things going on and be just giving ourselves that variety. And it keeps us interested. Yeah, I tend to be very efficiency focused, but the whole point of this is that we are not a factory. Exactly, Rebecca. I tend to fall into the same. I think there is a piece of that for you and I, that there is that also the other side of it, that there is the needing to create content and be teaching. So I think there is that side of it. I also have to consciously take off my nursing hat because a lot of what I do in my career is very focused on get it done, get it done, get it done. Efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. And my mom laughs at me sometimes because she'll be talking about doing something and I've already done it. Like she'll be like, oh yeah, we need to make a salad and we need to chop the carrots and we need to do this. And it's like, and I just do it. And she's like, oh, you're so fast. And we kind of laugh about it, but it's just this, get it done, delegate, get it done. And I'm very much the same way. I have to take that hat off and remind myself that it is a marathon, not a sprint. And sometimes slowing down and means that we can really increase the quality of what we're doing. Moving more towards the process side of the spectrum will help you keep involved with fiber arts during this really busy time in parenting. It did for me. That's so true, Suzanne. Thank you for saying that. You're absolutely right. Yeah, the bats of this, oh, they are amazing. I almost didn't want to spin them. They were so lovely. I remember showing them on the podcast. Yeah, thank you for noticing that. So one of the things that came up on the survey that I did recently, and I was really surprised at some of the ideas that you guys had, some of the things that you felt might be helpful to put in the podcast. So one of the things was bringing back spinning growth. I thought that was really helpful. I would love to do spinning growth. I just need people to post in spinning growth. That was why spinning growth kind of came to an end, is because people weren't posting in there. So spinning growth was this idea that we can learn from projects that don't go exactly how we were hoping. There's a wasp like right here in the window, right behind my camera, and I'm watching it like hee hee hee, you can't get in. And so spinning growth was an opportunity to post those projects that didn't go quite as we had hoped and as we had anticipated, and to find the learning in it. Like, thank you so much for this opportunity. Like, thank you so much for this project that didn't go exactly as I had planned. This is what I learned from it. This was what I needed to learn from it. This is what I had an opportunity to learn from. And it was an opportunity on the podcast to kind of foster conversation around what are some of the things that we could have done differently, that we could do next time. So that was spinning growth. So there's quite a few people that asked for that to come back. I would love to do it. I just need people to post in spinning growth so I can re-sticky that thread on Ravelry. And if people post in there, we'll bring it back. Absolutely. I love that. The other thing that came up was, and it came up multiple times, like not one or two people. It was like comment after comment after comment after comment. There was like quite a few out of 34 comments, 35 comments. No, it was almost 40. We were up to like 36 or 37 comments. Like there was multiple people asking for kind of a a look back, a reflection on sweaters and projects that I've made that are kind of done and dusted. We've talked about them on the podcast. Some time has now passed. And could I talk about and go back to and bring that project back and look at and sort of reflect upon like what I did, what were some of the, like if there was modifications, whatever, what I would do differently, have I worn it, what would some of the fit issues be that I would change. These were all the different comments that were made. Like I'm kind of amalgamating it into like one thing as if it was one comment, but there was bits and pieces of it in multiple posts. So I thought we would try it. So it's kind of, I thought I would call it sweater reflections, because I've knit so many sweaters. And I thought I would share with you today Acer. So Acer was a sweater that I knit. Let me get all of my notes out and let me just, I'll sort of show it to you. I'll stand up for you guys. And so this is sort of an opportunity to reflect back on a previous project and to talk about some of the things that I learned from it. So this is Acer by Amy Christoffers, and to be honest with you, it is probably one of my most worn items that I've ever made. That's why I chose it. It's super hot outside today. It was the only one that I could tolerate wearing. And even now I'm thinking I'm gonna have to take off afterwards. So there was a couple of modifications that I made to the sweater. And so I'll try and go through them relatively quickly. And if you're watching this back later, you can slow me down. There's a speed thing here in the corner. You can slow me down and then you can pause and you can go back and rewatch. But these are the modifications that I made. So let me just get my notes here. In the pattern, she does a picked up ribbed button band. So you pick up along the front of the sweater and you knit out this way. It's always backwards for me. And you do a picked up button band that matches the collar and the ribbing. I did a seamed button band that I knit 1 by 1 rib and sewed it on afterwards. I love it. I think it suits the sweater. I think it finishes off the sweater really nicely. And I think that it just worked with the front of the sweater, and I would highly recommend anybody do that. The one thing that I didn't do that I wish I had done was, you can see here that I've sewn on buttons. I know they're a bit hard to see in the camera, but I did sew on buttons that were black that matched. They're kind of like a dark charcoal blacky gray that matches the dark color in the yarn. And I'll talk about the yarn in just a minute. But on the opposite side, I did not include buttonholes. And I had sort of thought at the time that I would do afterthought buttonholes like what Isolde Teague does in a lot of her patterns. And I never did. I totally still could. That was a mistake. And I did that on my Lady Marpole as well, that I also knit out of the same yarn. And we'll talk about that sweater on another episode. I could even do it next time if you guys want, because it's another lightweight one that I can wear when it's hot out. But the thing is that I don't button it as a result. And as my shape has changed and as my body has changed, I could totally button this up and it would be fine. When I first made it, it was a little bit tight. I was postpartum. I had gained a lot of weight in both of my pregnancies. And I was like, I'm not going to button it up anyways. I'm going to wear it open anyhow. I was breastfeeding at the time. But in hindsight, I should have done buttonholes. I wish I had buttonholes, even just to be able to, just sort of tape it closed, And so once in a blue moon, I will pop it into the lace. You guys are going to laugh at me. I'll pop it into the lace underneath my jacket when nobody can see, like that, just so that it holds it closed so that I can put my jacket on. So that was a mistake. Has it affected me wearing it any less? Maybe a little bit, but I still wear this a lot. The yarn is Malabrigo Arroyo. It is a sport weight yarn. It's marketed as a sport weight yarn. It's a superwash merino. It looks brand new. Like, the sweater is not aged at all. It hasn't pilled under the arms at all. I think that is partially because it's big on me and there's no rub spots. It's got lace all down the back so that you guys can see that there. And I think the big thing about this cardigan is that the yarn was not the right gauge for the pattern. So the needle sizes that I used were 3.5 millimeter needle for all of the ribbing, all of the picked up button bands, and the lower hem ribbing was on the 3.5 millimeter needles as well. But the lace part of the sweater and the sleeves were knit in 4.5 millimeter needles, and that's created quite an open elastic fabric. It worked. I would recommend doing it if you would like to knit this sweater. You could totally get away with it. However, when I was knitting it, and you can see here, the lace is very open and gauzy, whereas in the original sweater, it's more of a DK weight that was used, and it's a little bit more of a substantial sweater. So you have to weigh out the pros and cons. I am seriously thinking about using this yarn for this sweater and knitting another one. But again, this would be a bit lightweight to do that with. So I might save that idea and do that with the Dorset fleece that I was mentioning. The other thing that I did was the sleeves are picked up and knit from the top down using short rows. And that is a technique that was used a lot in a lot of patterns, probably about, what would you guys say, like 5-6 years ago? It was a big thing to do that. I remember knitting sweaters like that in like 2010, 2011, where you'd pick up, because nobody wanted to seam in sleeve caps because people didn't really know how to sew. And so that was really, really popular at that time. So more like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. That's longer than I thought. That started to be a thing. And what I did was I made sure to pick up extra stitches and I knit the 38-inch sleeves, whereas I knit for the sweater, I knit a 36-inch size for the 36-inch bust. My upper bust is now 29 inches, so that's why the sweater has so much positive ease, but I really, really like it. I think it actually suits me better. I would absolutely knit that size again to give me all of that positive ease. So yeah, up to 10 years ago, Kate Davies' first book has those. Yeah, I thought so. And I know Amy Christoffers used that technique in a ton of her patterns. Anka's Trick did. Barbara Walker used it in her knitting from the top down. Thank you, Dagmar. Yeah, there was tons of patterns at that time that used that. Nadia Chrétien, what's her other? She has a hyphenated last name. She uses it. There was tons at that time. Anyhow, it's a great technique, especially if you don't want to seam, and it works really well in this pattern. And it creates a really lovely decrease line that's really, really quite nice and quite subtle. Along the sleeve cap, but just I did go up a size because at that time my arm circumference was definitely bigger than it is now, and I felt like I needed that added ease. So I've worn this sweater a lot. I throw it on any chance I get if I don't need a big heavy cardigan. And yes, Isabel Kramer, she uses it a ton. Thank you, Diane. And I would absolutely knit it again. And I have actually been thinking about knitting it again recently because I do wear it a lot. And I don't tend to re-knit sweaters unless it's Catbells for some reason. I've knit that 3 times now. But I've knit Lady Marpole twice. And I'm thinking I'll probably make this one again as well. The other thing I really like about this is the neck. I can throw a tank top like this underneath and the neck works. It's not great with a higher collared t-shirt that sort of all gets bunched up, but this works really, really well. So now that we're kind of into the hot weather and we're into tank tops again, it kind of works. So yeah. Oh, that's so, yeah, Barbara Walker's book. Yeah, it would have been, wouldn't it? It's from 1972. Yeah, I know it wasn't a new technique, but I think it was one of those techniques that was kind of rediscovered, maybe, Dagmar? Maybe that, because I know that when it first started being a thing, people started to sort of, pick up on it again. I saw your note there about Rebecca. She said about a spinning growth on the Slack channel. That's probably a good idea. Yeah, because I know a lot of people aren't using Ravelry anymore, so that would be a great thing to start another channel. Oh, we've got so many channels. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to talk about was another Amy Christoffers pattern, pressed flowers. So this is the finished sweater. This was Amy's sample. So you can see I made some changes to mine, and I'll go back to the big camera in just a minute, but I wanted to share with you a little bit about some of the modifications that I made. So one of the things that I modified was the button band. Instead of doing a ribbed picked up button band like she did, I did a sewn on button band. It is definitely my more preferred method of putting on button bands. I did include buttonholes, and I also lengthened it by quite a bit. So I think in the pattern, the finished length is like 13 or 14 inches, and she's modeling it in the pattern with a really cute dress And the idea is that the sweater kind of hits your waistline. I will probably more likely than not wear this mostly with jeans because I live in jeans, and I just have to, bye Rebecca, thank you for being here, and I just have to embrace that. So let me show you pressed flowers, ba 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 ba. I don't have buttons yet, so it's not finished, but it is blocked. It is washed and blocked. So I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'll put it on in just a minute. But I wanted to give you guys a sense of sort of what it looks like. I did lengthen it by quite a lot, so it comes down quite a bit further. I think it's the finished length is more like 16, 17 inches. I don't have a measuring tape right here, otherwise I would check, but I'll be able to tell you based on where it hits me. The sleeves are a wee short. The sleeves were meant to be, I think she tells you to knit to like 13 inches-ish. And even with the drop sleeve, I think I should have done one more repeat of the pressed flowers before doing the ribbing at the cuff. But to be honest with you, at that point, I'm not even sure I would have had the patience to go that far. I just was so done at that point. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. I am so happy with it, and it fits perfectly. So let me just move Diana off to the side here, because bless her, she gets to take a break. But the drop shoulder worked beautifully. It's just perfect. It hits in exactly the right spot. This is washed and blocked and done. And I'll talk about the yarn in just a minute. The major modifications that I made for those who are watching this after the fact was the seamed button band. So the seamed button band goes all the way up. My last buttonhole is up here, which is where Amy asks for it in the pattern. So there's buttonholes, and then it's seamed all the way up. And I've got a lovely slip stitch border on the other. And I just have to pull buttons. I think I have buttons in my stash. I've got dark brown ones that I think will work really nicely. I also think that this will probably, I suspect that this will stretch as I wear it. It just feels very elastic, and it just feels like there's going to be a lot of ease. Even the sleeves, like they're not particular. They might look a bit tight, but they actually aren't. They're quite loose. And I told you guys you wouldn't be able to see these missing flowers, and look at that. You can't tell. So I'm glad I didn't stress. I'm glad I didn't go back and worry about it. Does anybody have any questions about this sweater? I know you guys know that it was a bit of a labor of love, and that I had to sort of really dig deep to finish it off. And it definitely had its moments where I was seriously thinking about just dumping it at the side of the road. It wasn't the pattern. Amy's patterns are awesome. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Savory Knitting, of Amy Christoffers. The problem was just my gauge, the yarns, which I'll talk about in a minute, and just getting it right on the sleeves. It wasn't the body of the sweater. Once I was finished the body, I was off to the races, like getting all the decreases done and getting it all seamed. That was all fine. I just got hung up on the sleeves. And you know, I am so thankful for that struggle now in hindsight. I know chat's going a bit crazy, but I'll get you guys in just a sec. I'm so thankful for the struggle that I went through with the sweater and putting it to the side for a bit, and, you know, just letting it linger, letting it be there, making sure that I didn't put it away, that I could see it, because I felt like I needed to remind myself why I do this. And I know that might sound a bit strange, but I've really spent a lot of time this winter and going into this spring. It's continuing. It's an ongoing thing. Really thinking about what it is that I want from my making, and what it is that why I do what I do. Why do I do this? And you know, it's not just, well, I like to make things. Yeah, but why? Well, I really enjoy the creative process. Okay, but why? It's a really wonderful outlet, and I get to spend a lot of time exploring my creativity and thinking about my footprint around the materials that I use, and looking at the things that I've bought over the years, and what I want to make, and what inspires me, and being inspired by others. Okay, but why? Well, because others really are so inspiring, and the community is always just like constantly churning all this stuff out and making all these things, and it's so cool to see. And then being back in person and seeing people at Fibers West, and really feeling that connection, and being able to walk and see what's going on, and talk to people and reconnect, and hear their creative process and what's changed for them, and what they've been working on, and it just you have to keep going. You have to keep digging deep and figuring out why. And I think pressed flowers was a really good opportunity for me to come back to. M's and W's, my stole actually was the same, because it was a long-term project as well that I didn't expect to be long-term, but they both gave me that opportunity to be like, why am I resisting sitting down at the loom? Why am I resisting fixing the sweater? Why am I resisting pulling it out and redoing it? Why does it feel like it's so much work? Why does it feel like it's so big? Just why? And just pushing. I think this is going to be, I'm forecasting into the future, but I think that it is going to be one of my most worn sweaters, because it feels easy to wear. And that's always a good thing. Even when I had it on a minute ago, I'm not pulling at it and pushing at it and trying to get it into the right spot and trying to like make it fit and make it work. That's always a really good indication to me that it'll be wearable, that it'll be easy to wear. Now, I wanted to talk about the yarn really quickly before we move on. The solid colored yarn in this sweater is Disdero Ranch Mocha, I think. It's their mohair Corriedale alpaca blend, I think. And it's this creamy gray color. It's quite a warm taupe color. And when you listen to Woolen Spinning Radio coming up in June, I took photos of my wardrobe, and this color comes up again and again and again. It's in every single photo that I took of my wardrobe, and Rebecca and I talk about that on the radio show. So when I was looking at this while we were recording, I was like, it's just perfect. It works in my wardrobe perfectly. And then this color, that's sort of this, this is West Coast color. So my contrast color was West Coast color. This is what's a little bit of what was left from one of the skeins. I've got a lot left over, actually. I could do a toque or something with this yarn. I could use it for something else. I have enough for a whole other project. Anyhow, this is West Coast color, hand spun, 50/50 merino yak. It's called Karma. And we looked at this yarn when we were doing our year of luxury, when we were spinning yak that month, all of that content. I'll try to remember to throw it into the show notes so you guys can go back and watch all of that content from a couple of years ago, when I talked about this yarn and talked about spinning it and the struggles that I had with the varying staple lengths between the yak and the merino. And the yak is so dark brown that you can see that even if Lynn had put unbelievably garish colors onto the fiber, it was still going to mute down and go really super dark because of that dark yak that is dark brown and isn't going to take any of the dye in any meaningful way. So when you stand up close, you can see the nuances in the flowers, but from a distance, it looks like it's all dark green, dark forest green, brown, kind of like it's very dark. But up close, you can see all of that sort of lime color coming through, some of the ochre yellow, the teal blue. And there is one, I think I mentioned this on the show last time. There's one flower, it's right here. It goes from blue all the way through to red. It's a perfect rainbow, which is so interesting. So yeah, Dion says that missing flower. I talked about that on the last episode, so go back and talk about that, because I was like, I'm not going to go back and fix it. And people were like, oh my gosh, you have to fix it. Everybody's going to see it. I would leave it. If you're going to leave it, then make sure there's a matching one on the other side. And I was like, I'm just going to keep knitting. I'm putting my head in the sand. I'm going to keep knitting. And it was fine. Lisa says, I've never loved this pattern, but I really love the finished sweater on you. Thank you, Lisa. That's very kind. Any longer the sleeves would be too long. Love it on you. Thank you, Sam. And you know what? I tend to pull at my sleeves and I tend to push them up and stuff. So I think you're right. I think if I had made it any longer, I would have ended up having to like fold them back, which I did on my Catbells, on my cream colored Catbells. I ended up having to do this with the sleeves. Actually, I should do that on this sweater too, because I actually prefer 3/4 length sleeves. And if I don't have my jacket on, and but I want to be able to pull the sweater down, the sleeves down when my jacket's on, so it doesn't get caught and all bunched up, you know. But that's actually what I do with most of my sweaters, is I fold the sleeves back. So you're right, I would have ended up doing that. Yeah, I'm so glad you are good with the fit after all the aggravations. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate that. Yeah, it looks good on you, says Dion. Thank you so much, you guys. So that is pressed flowers, and when I put buttons on it, I'll show them to you. I won't wax poetic about the sweater, but I'll show you the finished buttons so that we can call this sweater done and dusted. And then in a couple of years, I'll bring it back and I'll tell you about how it wore on Sweater Reflections. All right, I have one more thing to share with you. Oh, I didn't tell you about the needle sizes, just quickly, really quick. For all of the ribbing on this, so the button band, the body of the sweater, and the ribbing at the bottom and the ribbing on the cuff, I did all of that on 3.5 millimeter needles. So it's quite a tight, it's a really great fabric, even though there is a slight difference. This was a little bit finer than the Disdero, but because it's mosaically knit, it was fine. And then the sleeves, whoever had the suggestion of going up a needle size, thank you, because I sort of thought initially like, oh, I don't really need to. I know people recommend that when they're doing mosaic or intarsia or color work or whatever, but I've never had an issue with my gauge, and my gauge wasn't the issue. The issue was just being so tight and being in the round. So I did go up, not to pick up. I picked up with 3.5 millimeter needles, but then I switched over to 4.5 millimeter needles, which is a US size 7 for the rest of the sleeve. And that made a huge difference to my sanity. And then I went back to the 3.5 millimeter for the cuffs, and that is a US size 4. So US size 4 for the entire sweater except for the sleeves, and that was on a 4.5. So I hope that that is helpful for anybody who is struggling with gauge. I've never struggled with gauge before. That was the first time where I was like, holy smokes, this is humbling. This is good. I appreciate it. All right, last work in progress, newspaper. So this is Joji Locatelli's pattern, newspaper. This is the pullover version. I think there's a cardigan version, if I'm correct. Maybe you guys can help me out. Because in the pattern it says newspaper bracket pullover. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's like another, she used this pattern for something else, like there's a cowl or a hat or something, I'm not sure. I loved this pattern as soon as it was released. It was one of my favorite jumper patterns that had been released in a while. It's starting to take a lot for me to be inspired by stuff. I know that sounds terrible. I just feel like there's a lot out, there's so many patterns out there, it's almost overwhelming. But when this one was published, I knew that eventually I would want to knit it. So I finished the body. And these aren't the best photos of me, they're not super flattering, but this is newspaper on me as opposed to being off me. Anyways, I don't know what I'm thinking. Nora took the photos, so thank you to Nora for helping me out. But I was really torn about making it longer. So each of these brioche stripes are 4 inches. They're 24, are they 24? There's something, 20 rows, 20, something like that. They're 4 inches. And so like, if I do one more in the dark brown, another 4 inches down the body, it's going to make, right now the sweater is 14 inches long, which is what it calls for in the pattern. I'm long torsoed, hence my dilemma. I wasn't sure. I said to Nora, like, do I add another 4-inch stripe? She's actually really good with stuff like this. Like she's, you know, she's just turned 9, she's little, but she's got quite the eye. And this photo was in yoga pants, and she's like, I don't know, I can't tell, like your pants are too dark. So I put on jeans, and she said, and so the sweater currently hits just below my belt. So if I were to wear a belt, it hits right below the belt. And if I added a whole other 4 inches plus 2 inches of ribbing, that's another 6 inches of sweater. It would come down to my hip bone, way past my hip bone, like down to my thigh. That's way too long. So after taking these photos and thinking about it for a bit, I've actually decided to go into just the hem ribbing. So it's a little bit shorter than I wanted, but my swatch grew quite a bit. So I have to take that into account too, that the sweater should grow by another almost 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches. And that would put the sweater at the perfect length. So I'm just going to do extra ribbing and give it a wash. And if it's not right, then I'll add a little bit more ribbing. But I've gone into the ribbing now, and it's the next, like the last section. I'm almost done. I'm halfway done the ribbing. It's a lot of knitting. This sweater is a lot of knitting. The only reason why I'm so far along on it is because Pressed Flowers is done. And I've been taking this with me everywhere, and brioche is actually quite easy, even though you're knitting every single row twice. It's actually quite fast. And so now that I'm down onto the ribbing, it's actually like going quite quick. As you can see, I did not stop and do the sleeves. I just finished off the body, but it's because I didn't want to break the yarn. I wanted to just keep on going. So I'm almost finished the brown skein, and I'll have to skein up the second skein for the sleeves. But it's a tubular cast off at the bottom, which I'm looking forward to. I like tubular cast offs at the end of sweaters. And I think it'll be a really nice finish. So it'll be about I'm thinking I'll do closer to 2.5 inches of ribbing at the bottom. And I think that'll finish off the sweater beautifully. Yeah, it'll grow, Eve, by about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. Yeah, 1 inch of ribbing. The pattern calls for 2 inches of ribbing. It's almost 2.5 inches of ribbing at the bottom. So we'll see, Lisa. 1 inch for me, I find personally, is never enough because it wants to flip up. Maybe not with brioche though, because brioche doesn't have that same wanting to curl like stockinette does. But thank you, Suzanne. She says your colors are great and I love it on you. Thank you so much. I love the colors. I love the colors. I think it was Rebecca that picked the dark brown. Like we were kind of waffling because I'd originally picked gray. That was very, very similar to this color. But the gray with the coral, there was no pop. There was no snap. And we both kind of were like, yeah, it's okay. I can show you actually. And then I grabbed the cream. But I always use cream for the contrast color. And I wanted to push myself and do something different. And so this was my original pick, was this combination. And we both were sort of like, yeah, it's okay. The gray that is the Brook fingering. This is Gathering Yarns Brook fingering. And the gray that went with this is the same. It's exactly the same as this, but gray. Same tone, same saturation. It was quite cold. So next to the coral, it made the coral look really, really cold. And next to the brown, the coral just seems warmer, and it gives you a nice contrast. Like with Hohi's original, that contrast is really, it's quite pronounced. So I didn't want to lose that and have two yarns that were so similar. And then the cream was fine. It would have worked really, really nicely, but it made a very, very light sweater. And what I liked about this was the contrast between light and dark. I think that's what works really well with this, is you really see the brioche. And I think I've done that. So I'm onto the sleeves next. Yeah. Heck yes, warm. Exactly. The gray was beautiful. So Rebecca's back from grabbing the kids, but this sweater is a lot of work for that low of contrast, which is what she said in the moment at Fibers West, and I totally agree with her. And as soon as I grabbed the brown, we were both like, yes. We still talked about it for a sec, but we both thought it was just the right thing. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean, Lisa. She says, yeah, no, I mean an extra to whatever she has, 3 inches. I'm tall and it's all in my torso, so it happens to me a lot with big stripes. Yeah, exactly, Lisa. I tend to pick small stripes as a result. Yeah, I can see that. I think you're right, Lisa, about adding that extra inch. So my plan was to go closer to 3 inches of ribbing rather than 2. Yeah, it definitely calls for some kind of high contrast, not necessarily value though. One of the other contrasts would have been interesting. Yes, I agree, Amanda. Like you could do warm, cool contrast with this. You could do contrast of hue with this and have the same saturation. Yeah, you don't have to do value. It just worked with this that I have that I had a value contrast. So, and I also have a light dark contrasts, which is really cool. So yeah, anyways, thank you so much, you guys. And I am still working on Catbells. That's this one. Mine is my third one. I've knit this one, a black one, and then I'm doing my green one right now. I just have to skein another skein of yarn. So I'm getting there. But I don't need to, I won't go into it today. All right, let's do community participation because it is getting late and I've kept you guys for a long time. All right, so we have lots going on in the community that people are sharing. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you was the Year of Color stuff that people are working on. This was from Alberto, and I have to make myself smaller because we have to be able to see what he wrote. Ta-da, my value key yarn samples. The bottom one is the extended middle minor, and I think it was successful. It definitely is. So this was from our contrast of value. We were looking at middle minor, high minor, low minor, and then high major, middle major, and low major, which you can see are there on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side are his minor keys. So high minor, middle minor, low minor. And you can see how much darker the low minor is compared to the low major. And then in the bottom middle, there is his minor key with his extended minor key, which is just a broader range of the middle values, which I think he nailed. It was perfect. Really well done, Alberto. Yeah, so amazing. Aw, such an amazing thing to see my work noticed for the group. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, the work that you guys put in, whew, it's incredible. I honestly think, oh, this is so cute, Lisa. I honestly think Rachel and Rebecca should do a, quote, our fabulous sweaters fashion show when it gets cool. That would be so much fun. I think we should do a community-wide sweater fashion show. Take a photo of your favorite sweater that you've ever made, and then we'll do a fashion show in the fall. That would be so much fun. Okay, I'm writing that down. Hang on. Because I will forget. Sweater fashion show. Oh my gosh, how much fun would that be? That would be so much fun. Okay, this is from Lisa. She did her homework. These are cotton singles. So she's done her color wheel here in cotton. Isn't that awesome? I love this. Love this so much. So much fun. This is from Amara. This is her first red, yellow, and blue color wheel on Rambouillet. She thinks it was maybe from Ashland Bay. That was almost pure white before I dyed them, and very soft and lofty too. The dyed colors were from Country Classics, Tomato Red, Maize, and Cornflower. And these are her 2 color wheels. I think I showed the other one last time, if my memory serves. She had done the CMYK color wheel, and then next to it is the RYB color wheel. And she got fantastic results. Just awesome. Thank you, Amara, for sharing. Yeah. Alberto says, love Amara's detail and colors. Yeah. This is, and then we've got general makes and shares. I'm just, sorry, I keep looking. This particular slideshow for you guys, the community participation, has a lot of videos. So I have to keep looking to see if it's one that has a video. So let me just move the chat for just a second because it's throwing me off. I have to move it out of my way. This is from Charlotte. Isn't this the most beautiful photo? I love this photo so much, Charlotte. Do you ever just enjoy staring at your nitty naughty? Of course you do. This is Bombeck Silk Roving Support Spindle spun from the fold and then chain plied. Isn't that beautiful? I just love that, Charlotte. It's just gorgeous. Thank you so much for sharing. This is from Sam. This has to be one of my favorite spins to date. And what a beautiful photo. It is 30 grams of camel down that was in my Advent box. Advent is not just for Christmas, right? Totally. It seemed to take me forever to spin, and I have ended up with 134 yards of 2-ply, a grist of 2,000 yards per pound. It's so soft and squishy. I think I will just use it for squishing. Absolutely. Embrace the squish. Love it. This is also from Sam, and I just want to take this photo and put it on the wall. She takes the cutest photos. It's finished the weekender. And this is about the sweater, not about everything else happening in this photo, like the telly box in the background and the really cool car and the really fun sheep leggings, and like, it's just such a great photo. We're talking about the sweater. The Weekender by Andrew Mowry. Had to fiddle and to get the gauge right, but happy now it's done and dusted in time for our summer when it finally decides to arrive. All fibers are from Hilltop Cloud, and the bottom gray was from Eve, and some was bought separately. It is so soft and silky. I'm gonna be wearing this a lot, I think. Yes, Sam, yes, yes, yes. It is beautiful. I love it. And I like the cohesion. A sweater like this with the color blocking, you know, some people would it would be really hard to see, like have that vision of what this might turn out to be like. You know, they might have the idea of color blocking, but then it would sort of be like, oh, how am I going to make this work? But with the speckling and the texture and just the overall cohesion of the yarns, like it just works. It works beautifully. And I love that you photographed it next to your new little car there, because you've got that complement going on there, the split complement. It's really cool. It just makes it pop even more. So cool. That photo is my life goals. Right, Lisa? Yes. It's like the one with her pom-pom hat that she had in the snow. Life goals. Totally. This is from Kaylee. I started this spin in 2021, and then it took a long break. My hubby has asked for a sweater for a couple of years now, and I think he'll have it for next fall. I love these colors. Gray and orange, you guys. Are you seeing a theme here? Gray and orange. This is my take on the Radari sweater. Everything is a 3-ply hand spun from bats I made using mostly various fleeces. The dark gray is the exception. It's a sample yarn I spun, and I'm holding double. I certainly have to spin more of this one, but I've got plenty of fleece left, and I'm working the top pattern from the top down to ensure it fits him before casting off. Here goes nothing. Sounds great, Kaylee. So great. Dion says, I love that sweater and I want the car. You know what I want, you guys? Let me tell you about. I am a car girl. I don't know if anybody knows that in our community. I know Jenny knows, but I am a car girl. I love cars. And if one day, I'm just putting this out to the universe. My husband knows that this is what I really want. I would love a fully restored 1975 Mini Cooper S in my driveway in British racing green with a white hood, with a white roof. That would be, oh my gosh, that is what I want. I don't even care if it's a left-hand drive. A left-hand drive or a right-hand drive, doesn't matter. A 1975 Cooper Mini S in British racing green. Yes, 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 yes. I did rally car racing, and just for a very short time. I only got to go a few times. But it was with a friend of mine in university, and he would go out to Mission, which is a raceway out here. The Mission is a city, and then there's a raceway out there, and they do rally car racing. side note here, you guys, and a professional driver gets in with you, and you get to, they talk to you while you're driving, and they give you tips and pointers and stuff. One of the best experiences ever. I to this day, it made me a better driver. For sure, 100%. It's just awesome. The other thing I want to say about this and why I've kept it on this screen, Kaylee held some of her yarn that she had spun double. That is a great thing to keep in the back of your mind if you're trying to like knit through some yarn and you're trying to like use some stuff up, especially in something like this that's color work. Don't discredit a yarn just because it's not the right gauge. You can make it work. Hold it double. That works wonders. And it's amazing. You know, we think our yarns are really, really thin, or we think they're maybe thicker than they are. Make sure you're knitting with them and trying them out, because they do change when you start to knit with them. And sometimes a yarn that feels really, really thick is actually got a lot of air in it, and it actually will knit at a lower gauge much nicer. Or a yarn that you think might work, but it, like the color works, but it's too fine. Hold it double and see what happens. It's just a really great tip that I've not mentioned very much. This is from Becca. She was sampling this braid. It's from Crafty Jacks, and she was sampling and trying to figure out what to do with it. And her first little sample skein, trying to decide what to do. Oh, it just came out beautiful. So this is a little mini skein 4-ply, just spun as the colors came in the braid. It's one repeat of the colorway. Isn't that beautiful? Becca's spinning is so consistent and so even. I always am just amazed. Beautiful, beautiful spinning. Lisa says, my dream car is a 1972 Caddy, but those take more fuel than the Queen Mary. And Dion wants a vintage truck or a Mini Coupe is her dream car. Aw. Dion says, Kaylee's sample just gave me a color idea. That's awesome. That's the whole point, right? Is to be inspired by everybody. All right, this is from Amanda. This is so much fun. I am so excited to share this with you. I decided to knit a pair of socks from a lovely indie dyed skein in my stash. I started the cuff and then decided that with all of our color play, I wanted to do some color work in my knitting too. There wasn't anything in my yarn stash that spoke to me as a match. So in the spirit of the year of color, I blended and spun my own. The original skein is a lovely, rich, orange-brown, light fingering weight, 4-ply superwash merino and nylon blend. My freshly spun contrast is a blend of red, orange, hot pink, ochre yellow, and cool yellow merino that I carded on the drum carder, dizzed off into roving, and spun short forward to create a 4-ply light fingering weight of the same twist angle. I'm looking forward to starting the socks. I'm thinking the color work will be a simple overall pattern of triangles or something like that in mosaic knitting. Beautiful. Amanda says she doesn't even drive, but does that mean that she said what her dream car was? I didn't see if she did. I've seen these. She started, I'm not even sure, Amanda, you probably even have these finished now or maybe close to finished, because she was already knitting on them in queries a couple of weeks ago, and oh, they are fantastic. Just awesome. This yarn is beautiful. Look at that twist angle. And then the contrast between the two, it's low contrast, but it's that color, that hue contrast. It is beautiful. And you can see in that second photo, look in the corner here, you can see my mouse there, that you can see a little bit of that yellow coming through and a little bit of that contrast coming through that just gives the yarn a little bit more interest and depth and texture. It's so beautiful. Amazing. Yeah, she's working on the second one at the moment. Amazing. I can't wait to share them on the next show, the finished pair of socks. Thank you, you guys, for sharing everything that you've done and all of the things that you do. I really appreciate it. You guys are incredible as always, and there's never any ending to how inspired I feel by you guys. It's incredible. So thank you so much. That is it for today. We have had a very full show. I have some recording to do this afternoon that I'm excited to get to, and I hope that you guys get some fibery time later today, get an opportunity to work on everything. I will see you next time, same place, the first Tuesday in June at 10 a.m. Pacific. I hope you have a wonderful couple of weeks, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone. A very special thank you to those who have supported the work here at Woolen Spinning to make it sustainable. Thank you especially to Anne, Sarah, Tori, Amanda, and Lisa. We couldn't do this without you.